Welcome to ASEAN in Focus. I'm Judy Temera delivering to you the latest news in and around the ASEAN region on today's headlines. Indonesia's top court has rejected a challenge to election results that allege massive and systematic fraud, paving the way for Joko Widodo's second term as president. Malaysia Airlines BHD or MAB and Singapore Airlines SIA will jointly explore a wide-ranging strategic partnership to build on their existing code-share agreement that covers flights between Singapore and Malaysia. And Johor Darul Tazim clinched an historic sixth-straight Malaysian Super League title on Wednesday after a 2-1 win away to Melaka. The Indonesia's top court has rejected a challenge to election results that allege massive and systematic fraud, paving the way for Joko Widodo's second term as president. The Constitutional Court in Jakarta said Thursday that the legal team of former General Prabowo Subianto had failed to prove allegations that included millions of fake voters and biased state institutions.
Menyatakan dalam eksepsi, menolak eksepsi termohon dan pihak terkait untuk seluruhnya. Dalam pokok permohonan, menolak permohonan pemohon untuk seluruhnya.
Speaking afterwards alongside his running mate Maruf Amin at news conference Thursday, Joko Widodo thanked the people of Indonesia for the mandate given to them to rule. The legal challenge failure was not unexpected after documents filed with the court showed the evidence was mainly printouts of news articles. The hearings were broadcast live on national television. Subianto, linked to human rights abuses during the Suharto era of authoritarian rule, also lost to Widodo in 2014 and has made 4 unsuccessful bids for the presidency. Official results in May showed Widodo won 55.5% of the votes.
Presiden dan Wakil Presiden terpilih adalah Presiden dan Wakil Presiden bagi seluruh anak bangsa, bagi seluruh rakyat Indonesia. Saya yakin semangat kita sama, yaitu Indonesia yang bersatu untuk membangun Indonesia yang maju, yang mampu bersanding dengan negara-negara besar lainnya. Saya ucapkan terima kasih kepada seluruh rakyat Indonesia. Semoga amanah yang kembali diberikan kepada saya sebagai Presiden dan Bapak Kiai Haji Maruf Amin sebagai Wakil Presiden periode 2019-2024 dapat kami jalankan sebaik-baiknya untuk mewujudkan pembangunan yang adil, pembangunan yang merata demi keadilan sosial bagi seluruh rakyat Indonesia.
Meanwhile, Indonesian presidential candidate Prabowo Subianto has accepted the ruling of the Constitutional Court in Jakarta on Thursday, which rejected a challenge to the election results that allege massive and systematic fraud. The legal challenge's failure was not unexpected after documents filed with the court showed the evidence was mainly printouts of news articles. The hearings were broadcast live on national television. Subianto, linked to human rights abuses during the Suharto era of authoritarian rule, also lost to Widodo in 2014 and has made 4 unsuccessful bids for the presidency. Official results in May showed Widodo won 55.5% of the votes.
Walaupun kami mengerti bahwa keputusan tersebut sangat mengecewakan bagi kami dan para pendukung Prabowo Sandi, namun sesuai kesepakatan kami akan tetap patuh dan mengikuti jalur konstitusi kita, yaitu Undang-Undang Dasar Republik Indonesia 1945 dan sistem perundang-undangan yang berlaku di negara kita. Maka dengan ini kami menyatakan bahwa kami menghormati hasil keputusan Mahkamah Konstitusi tersebut.
In other news, two separate explosions in Tunis were reported Thursday night, prompting the Philippine Embassy in Libya to issue an advisory asking Filipinos in the area to exercise caution. And I quote, "The Philippine Embassy in Tripoli, through its interim legation in Tunis, has received reports of two explosions along Rue de Charles de Gaulle in downtown Tunis," the Department of Foreign Affairs said in a bulletin sent through Assistant Secretary Emmanuel Fernandez. According to initial reports, the explosions involved a suicide bomber and a car bomb that was detonated one after the other near the French embassy and the headquarters of the anti-terrorist police. Reports said at least one police officer was killed in the blast, with several others wounded. And I quote, "In this connection, the embassy requests all Filipino nationals in Tunis to remain vigilant, avoid these areas and take the necessary precautions," the advisory read. Philippine Ambassador to Libya El Mercato reported none of the 94 Filipinos in Tunisia was injured in the blast. Two embassy personnel, on the other hand, were in the area when the bombs exploded, but both were unharmed, he said. In case of emergency, Filipinos in Tunisia were advised to immediately contact the interim legation and the Philippine consulate in Tunis. Meanwhile, Malacanang believes that President Rodrigo Duterte did not commit an unimpeachable offense because he never allowed Chinese to fish within Philippines' exclusive economic zone, or EEZ, in the first place. Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo insisted that it was speculative to assume that the Chinese vessel, which allegedly rammed and abandoned a Filipino fishing boat in the Recto Bank, was indeed fishing in the area when it could have merely been passing through. Critics, including former Foreign Affairs Secretary Albert Del Rosario, earlier warned that allowing Chinese to fish in territorial waters violates the 1987 Constitution. Del Rosario said Duterte's failure to defend the country's territory, including the EEZ, violates the Constitution and is a basis for impeachment, following calls of Filipino fishermen for the president to ban Chinese from fishing within Philippine waters. Panelo said Duterte saw no need to prevent them from doing so. Panelo clarified that Duterte trusts China would not allow their nationals to fish within the country's 200 nautical mile EEZ, since the two countries consider each other as friends.
It is not necessary to prevent them from fishing because they will not do that. In other words, why should I prevent somebody to do something when he is not going to do that?
When visiting the Philippines, Manila or Quezon City is a popular destination. But oftentimes the hustle and bustle of the city can be more stressful on your vacation. So when you feel the need to reconnect to nature or relax again, there's a beautiful oasis just outside of the city called the Garden at Ciudad de Victoria. can see here include hydrangea, snapdragon, and stargazers. They're truly beautiful. The gardens at Ciudad de Victoria are so peaceful, tranquil, and beautiful that it's become a haven for young couples and a very popular venue for engagement photos. The next time you want an escape from the big city, the garden at Ciudad de Victoria is a wonderful place to visit.
Welcome back. The World Bank Executive Board of Directors approved a loan of $300 million to accelerate poverty reduction in Indonesia. The Antara news agency also said that the loan will also be used to improve services in more than 66,000 villages in 380 districts across the country. World Bank Country Director for Indonesia and Timor-Leste, Rodrigo Chavez, noted in a statement that this project will support villages to overcome differences in rural infrastructure and human capital. These two things will contribute to efforts to reduce poverty and boost economic growth in the future. The loan project will help increase community involvement in planning, implementation, and supervision, including using technology-based applications, so that people participate in monitoring the real-time use of the village budget and their participation. Meanwhile, Malaysia Airlines BHD or MAB and Singapore Airlines SIA will jointly explore a wide-ranging strategic partnership to build on their existing code-share agreement that covers flights between Singapore and Malaysia. Under the Memorandum of Understanding or MOU inked yesterday, the enhanced ties between the two airlines could include a significant expansion of code-share flights beyond the Singapore-Malaysia routes, as well as enhancements on the frequent flyer program front. Other potential cooperation could involve cargo as well as maintenance, repair, and overhaul services. However, all this are subject to the necessary regulatory approvals. The two parties intend to finalize a formal agreement in the coming months, which will also include SIA subsidiaries Silk Air and Scoot, as well as MAB's sister airline Firefly. The government's chief economist expects the country's gross domestic product or GDP growing more than 6% in the second quarter of 2019, about a similar pace during the same period last year, bolstering growth of 6.5% for the year. Socio-Economic Planning Secretary Ernesto Pernia said election spending, consumption, and consumer spending likely drove economic growth in April to June. And I quote, "Business confidence is also high and lower inflation," he told reporters Thursday on the sidelines of a business conference. Pernia, also the National Economic and Development Authority or NEDA Director General, is optimistic that GDP will grow further in the third quarter as government spending is expected to catch up in the second half of the year. And I quote, "I would say 6.5% or GDP is achievable for the year," he added. The Philippine economy expanded by measly 5.6% in the first quarter of 2019, slower than the 6.5% growth recorded during the same period last year, as the reenacted budget slowed the pace of growth. The government operated on a reenacted budget until this year's budget was signed into law last April to reach the full-year growth target of 6 to 7%. Pernia earlier said the economy would need to expand by an average of 6.1% over the next 3 quarters.
innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups, micro, small and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Your weekly dose of entrepreneurial inspiration to update you on the latest developments in the world of business. Get close and personal with CEOs and thought leaders to help you discover valuable insights. Sharpen your instincts for smart decision making with the latest markets and economic trends, disruptive ideas, global innovations, social entrepreneurship, and other leading edge business ideas. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business every Saturday from 5 to 6 p.m. Open for Business, from vision to action.
Welcome back. Johor Darul Tazim clinched an historic sixth-straight Malaysian Super League title on Wednesday after a 2-1 win away to Melaka. In front of Rocca's group of traveling supporters that had made the short trip to Hang Jebat Stadium, the Southern Tigers took an early lead in the 7th minute through Nazmi Faiz, then doubled in the 26th on a goal by Diogo. Melaka caught the lead to 1 with a second-half penalty, but Johor held on for a 2-1 win that gave it the 2019 MSL title with 4 matches remaining. Powerhouse Johor are currently 16 points ahead of second place Pahang and have yet to lose a match this season. ASEAN Safe Migration. The campaign aims to raise the public awareness on safe labor migration that benefits all. This campaign video features messages on advantages of regular migration and efforts of ASEAN to protect the rights of migrant workers. It also underlines that everyone has a role to play in promoting safe labor migration. Take a look.
ASEAN is a dynamic region with over 635 million people and the 6th largest economy in the world. About 7 million ASEAN nationals are living abroad in another ASEAN country, and the numbers are rising. Migrant workers contribute to the societies and economies at home and abroad. However, not all migrants have a positive migration experience. The migration path involves many choices. Migration through regular channels is a safer choice because regular migrants are more likely to enjoy legal protection, be aware of their rights, and have access to support services. But it is often expensive and can lead to a debt burden. Migrants often lack information on safe migration and the dangers of irregular migration. Irregular channels are often considered more attractive because they can be faster and cheaper. However, irregular migrant workers are more vulnerable and have difficulties accessing help when problems arise. How do we make safe, regular migration channels available to all migrant workers in ASEAN? ASEAN leaders committed to creating a safe migration path when they signed the Cebu Declaration and the ASEAN Consensus. The ASEAN Consensus includes commitments by sending and receiving states to organize pre-departure orientations, simplify processes for overseas placement, prohibit overcharging of recruitment fees, provide fair conditions of work, facilitate access to legal recourse and assistance, and develop reintegration programs. Member states are committed to the ASEAN Consensus and safe migration. Governments, workers, employers, and civil society organizations all have a role to play. Let's work together to make safe migration a path everyone can take in ASEAN.
And that is the latest news in the Southeast Asian nations. Stay updated about the ASEAN region. I'm Judith Timera, and I'm on with 25.